they expect me to be like the kid off Channel 11 where you donate $1 a day to help get me water, and it's just like, oh, we'll help. And I'm like, that's not me. Like I'm not that. Like that's not me.
I'm not selling candy bars here. Like what the fuck? Yeah.
That's not right. And so don't come at me. Don't have that type of energy when you come to me and say like, hey, I want to hire diverse talent. Like clearly, when companies come to me, they want talent. So the conversation usually starts with like how we have a diversity problem. We want to fix the diversity problem. How much do your black and brown people cost? Because that's how they come. That's how the conversation starts. And to me, that's like, whoa. So if you're coming to me and you say you have a diversity problem and you're gonna pay me apples for oranges, where I give you a black person and you give me $1, like I don't like how that sounds. I don't like how that looks. Like that's not.
I'm not a trader. Yeah. On this episode of Brews BizDev, my illustrious guest is Shelton Banks from Rework Training. And while Shelton and I sip on a couple delicious beers from Goose Island Brewery, we talk about how Shelton came to found Rework based on his roots growing up in the south side of Chicago, what he and his organization are doing to battle the vicious cycle in workforce development that so many people get caught up in, and he dispels the myth that nonprofits don't make money, and we tackle head on the damage that myth does for the people involved. And of course, we talk about a lot more, and we do it with some fun and some attitude. So thanks for watching and enjoy. Hey, Shelton, how's it going, bud? Thanks for being here.
Oh man, good to see you. Glad to be here. Excited to chit chat.
Yeah, likewise. Glad to have you. Think we'll have some fun pissing people off. That's what we do here. So I appreciate you coming on and joining in the fun. Before we get into the important stuff like drinking and what we're drinking, why don't we just hit on you real quick? Introduce yourself to the audience. Who are you? What do you do? What are you all about?
Y'all love it, man. So hey, everybody, I'm Shelton Banks from Chicago, south side of Chicago at that. Like to mention that, just part of my heritage. But here in Chicago, I'm the CEO of a nonprofit organization called Rework Training that helps people like myself from non-traditional backgrounds, people of color, Black, Latinx, to get jobs in the tech sales industry. And so we all know that tech sales has this diversity problem. And my mission, my lot in life is to change that, and not just change it from like, oh, you get a job. I mean, I need you to get a job and make some money and do well for your family. And so, been doing that for the last 3 years, almost 4 years coming up here in Chicago. And, we're expanding, dude. So we're expanding. We've grown this business relatively fast, and we've helped a lot of people with expanding to the Bay Area. So lots of new things, lots of exciting things coming up.
Cool. Awesome to hear. I like to hear about expansion, at least when it involves things that I'm actually into and believe in, right? So some expansion is good, but this is good expansion. So the important stuff, what are we drinking and why? You go first.
So we're drinking Goose Island today. So I got the Goose Island IPA. And Goose Island is a Chicago thing, man. It's a 3-1-2 thing. So the classic 3-1-2 beer is usually the classic go-to. But we're doing we're being fancy, man. Goose Island IPA, you got the green label. It's the nostalgia.
Yeah, nice. I'm going to go even fancier because it's just what we had available out here in Buffalo. We got the Goose Island Madame Rose.
That's fancy.
2016 Belgian style wild ale, which I can tell you is a type of beer that I've never had before. So this is going to be kind of fun. I've never opened a beer like this on the show. So let's pop this shit open here.
Oh, dude, you've outdone yourself.
I have. Luckily, this is on the company card, right? So I have no idea how much it costs, but when you're using the company card, sometimes you don't look at the prices.
It says the order from the left.
Yeah, and when the president watches this later, it's going to go great.
Ratings, only if the ratings are bad.
Yeah, exactly. So an interesting color. This smells like wine. That's interesting. All right, man. Well, here's to it.
Let's do it. Oh, how is it?
It's good. It's Yeah, it's not down my normal lane. That's for sure. It's one of those crossover type things. Definitely a lot. I mean, there's fruit, right? It's wild ale aged in wine barrels. There you go. With cherries, alluring aromas of sour cherry, spice, and wood. Cool. All right, new things.
It's gonna do the job. Trust me.
I'm
It's gonna
into new
do the
things.
job.
And, I should be drinking a wild beer with a shirt like this, I figure. So I think it's all mixing in pretty good. All right. Well, while we drink here, let's talk about rework first, right? So you talked a little bit about it right there. I'm interested in, what were you seeing? What were you dealing with that had you get into it in the first place? And what kind of, impact are you out to make? And, what's been going on so far? What kind of impact you seeing?
Yeah. So, while I got into it, so from the South Side, if I add some color to the South Side of Chicago, low income neighborhoods, left and right, so average income per capita is anywhere between $8,000 to $16,000 annually that a family is making, which is like way under the poverty line, especially if you're a family of, four. That's not any money. And so I grew up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can imagine, the amount of resources that were available at my disposal, or lack of resources. And when you think about getting a job, no one taught me how to interview, nobody taught me how to do my resume. It was just limited exposure. And so I navigated my way up, the corporate ladder, climbed my way up using my teeth and my two fingers, and got to a point where I was doing okay in the tech industry. I was making money, I was okay. And when you think about that diversity and inclusion topic, folks were happy to have me, but they thought I was kind of like the special Black person. I was like the golden unicorn of we got one. And whenever I would refer my friends from the South Side,
yeah,
they would always get shot down. No, we we don't think you're talented. It was always something missing. I was just like, man, that's something's wrong here. Is either clearly there's a problem. And you all are saying my people that I'm referring, my friends aren't talented. Well, my friends are basically me. You represent, and so wanted to do something about it. And so rework changes that, where the things that a lot of hiring managers, recruiters see that they think oh, isn't talented. I help people to really speak to their talents. People that look like me speak to their talents in a way that hiring managers understand. But then I also help hiring managers and recruiters to understand this is what this is going to sound like. This is what this means. Really the cultural competence piece. And man, we have been doing it for 5 years now, and over 100 people, 100+ people placed in Chicago alone. The salaries, people going from $16,000 a year to average. I got the average salary $44,000 a year.
Yes.
And for free. That's the thing. So doing it for free. So not charging companies a staffing fee, not charging candidates tuition, doing it for free, man. And so, yeah.
Nice.
Changing lives.
Those numbers, man, because you were saying before whatever you're saying per household, right? 18 to 26,000, and the number behind you is higher than that entire range per person. Right? So that's the impact.
Huge impact, man. People, that's a whole nother TED talk. We'll talk about that's a whole nother
yeah.
Winning.
And, one of the things, as I've been talking to some other folks about, and we'll get into sales for the culture in a second, because that's how we ended up talking in the first place. But, I know that when I was talking with Jacob about, when he was looking at different people to work with, right. And he said, and so we wanted to go with Rework because the free thing, right. The nonprofit kind of free aspect of it, which really reduces the barrier to entry, but also that you're addressing both sides. It's not just, hey, we're going to train up the people, or it's not, hey, we're wandering around to attempt to train hiring managers and executives on what to look for. You're doing both sides and kind of, bridging that gap with no barrier, which seemed like a very cool way he thought to do it. I thought the same. So we're having this conversation. But yeah, I just wanted to remake that point of addressing both sides of the equation without any barrier is a model. Cause I've seen some other companies, right, who do similar-ish things, but there's always something thrown out. They're only addressing one piece, or there's someone has to pay something, which is what the fuck is someone who's like making 18 grand, the whole family, like, what are they going to pay? Like, what are they going to possibly pay? And if you want to teach a company that something is possible, you don't have them pay up front, right? No one's going to like pay a fee. You got to show them like, no, let the talent speak for itself. And then they actually adopt the behavior. So
100%.
is that a big part of kind of like when you go into companies, that a big part of the pitch, so to speak, right? Like there's no barrier to entry, like you'll see it in the results.
Oh, dude, it depends, which is why, this is my issue with like the nonprofit thing. So because we're nonprofit, we work differently in that respect. When we go to company, they're used to kind of like this one model of, you're a charity, you're a nonprofit, like you will take whatever we give you. It's kind of like the vibe that they come with. Like, oh, I tell folks all the time where it's like they expect me to, they expect me to be like the kid off Channel 11 where you donate $1 a day to help get me water, and it's just like, oh, we'll help. And I'm like, that's not me. Like I'm not that. Like that's not me.
I'm not selling candy bars here. Like what the fuck? Yeah.
That's not right. And so don't come at me. Don't have that type of energy when you come to me and say like, hey, I want to hire diverse talent. Like clearly, when companies come to me, they want talent. So the conversation usually starts with like how we have a diversity problem. We want to fix the diversity problem. How much do your Black and brown people cost? Because that's how they come. That's how the conversation starts. And to me, that's like, whoa. So if you're coming to me and you say you have a diversity problem and you're gonna pay me apples for oranges, where I give you a Black person and you give me $1, like I don't like how that sounds. I don't like how that looks. Like that's not.
I'm not a trader. Yeah.
You see, right? I'm glad you could not look.
Yeah.
But that's how recruiters come. They come with that mindset, and that helps me understand. Like, well, you have a bigger problem than a pipeline problem. This is you just don't you're missing the cultural competence piece. Your EQ is relatively low, and even if I was to help you get a person, they wouldn't stay because clearly, look what you just said.
Yeah.
But no one wants to admit that, and so that's the importance of having and teaching both sides, because for these companies that come and say those things, you need a safe space clearly to be ignorant to get that out. Like you didn't know something was wrong with that. And oftentimes, when you work for a company, you got to kind of keep the button-up suit and tie on, and you don't want to say anything, HR inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, creating this safe space where I can be like, nah, dude, that was horrible. You suck. Like that's not gonna fly here. You shouldn't say that ever again in your life. Like companies need that safe space to be ignorant, man, which is why we got to teach them.
Yeah, exactly. There's the mission, right? So got to show them the new way. Show them the new way. So on the other side, on the talent side, the people side, right?
Yep.
You're working with them, you're training them up. Obviously, then there's the connection right there to sales for the culture. So because obviously that's an initiative that's all about doing all sorts of things, right? Like from your side of the equation, from salespeople who have been in there, like the LinkedIn influencer, the Black LinkedIn crowd, right? Like showing up and like. And giving people like not only just the role models, right? They're like, listen, you can work your way up, which is cool. Like that's an important piece of the puzzle, because we could all be just like saying shit. And if you're not someone who's actually worked your way into something, there's no one's going to buy it. But also, can't just be a role model and be like, hey, just follow me. Like you want to like lay out the path behind you, which is what sales for the culture is all about. All the different paths, all the different stuff. So obviously Jacob, said some success stories, but I'm curious from your side, what is it that drew you into sales for the culture, and how has that been going as far as your participation there? And what do you see in the impact between rework and sales for the culture being so far?
Yeah. So if I work back, so the impact, so what Rework does, we focus on getting people into the sales profession just in general, right? Where it's like, here's your opportunity and you're going to need a roadmap and you may need some help along the way. But after you get into sales, tech sales, that's a whole nother therapy session. Like you're going to need the support. And especially if you want to move up in tech sales, right? Our goal is to get you past the $44,000 salary and to be able to have a group, a large group where you're not just like 10 people show up but to have 500 plus people that look like you and understand your struggle and are trying to rise to the top too. I mean, it's a good feeling. And so like the model has really been working. So we've had a few candidates actually. So we got 3 different stages. I'm not sure if Jacob talked about this, but we have like the not yet in sales folks, the entry level, the individual contributor sales folks, the leadership sales folks, the frontline manager sales folks. And we've seen kind of the progression in each one of those. Where we've seen folks not yet in sales come through rework, get a job in tech sales, and then go back to sales for the culture. And now be able to get the support at an individual contributor level that they may not get at may or may not get at their company. We've seen kind of the frontline manager be able to coach and get the coaching needed of like, how do I get to this VP level? I want to get into I want to be a VC one day or whatever your goal. And now you have this access to a group of maybe a couple of VCs that we have in our network. And so I mean, it's just been an amazing thing to see just so many people behind one common, like everybody has this one common theme, one common goal, and working towards it. Doesn't happen that often.
No,
doesn't happen that often, you know.
No.
And so, dude, it's it's exciting. It's exciting. Thanks, COVID. Thanks to COVID, brought us together, got us going. But man, it's exciting times.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, it's an awesome initiative, and hearing the stories of what people are getting personally, like those anecdotes, as well as those numbers, you know, with I forget what they said, like maybe it was it Morgan Ingram? No, someone else. JB maybe, who was the compensation stuff, and people are just getting these raises once they realize like, oh fuck, like I'm not getting paid anywhere near these other folks. Here's the record, and then bam, and you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know, and so without that support group and that information, you'd never even think to do it. So that's incredible. It's really
but you sometimes just need the pep talk, the confidence boost. You know, you need somebody to advocate behind you. Like, man, you could do this. You're worth more than $17,000 a year. You deserve this.
Yes.
Or if you're here, you're like, hey, you deserve this. Like, let me give you a little pep talk. We can practice. Like, I'm in your corner, man. And to have that, especially when you may not feel like you have it at work, you know, where you can't say there's certain things you can't be politically correct in saying. And so to have just like a professional resource group to support you, man, it's huge, man.
Yeah. No shit. That's cool. So let's debunk some stuff, right? I like to do that, and I like to bring on people who also like to do that. So here we are. So we talked about before, right? Is like the main question here is, what's something you've heard or been taught in the business, and in your case, like the nonprofit world, right? Like, so what's something that you get a lot that people think that you realize is total bullshit? And what's the truth of the matter?
Oh man, myth. All right. Nonprofits don't make money. Nonprofits don't make money. That is just like a charity. You know, I don't know what people, they just don't make money. That's where it starts. You know, like I talk to folks and they're like, oh, you make money? It's like, dude, yeah, I make money. And I'm not like, let's just start there. Nonprofits don't make money. Let's start there. Let's unpack it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let's unpack that. So you're saying that they do. So how could something make money and be a nonprofit? I mean, it's right in the name, right? So tell me what you mean by making money and what's wrong with that statement.
Oh man, so let's just start with just like the legal entity. So most people don't understand that like being a nonprofit is not like technically a legal entity. Most nonprofits, you know, they have a legal entity, whether they're a C corp or S corp or LLC, but most nonprofits are C corps. And just have a nonprofit tax status, which means like the money that they bring in technically is supposed to go back to serving their mission. Right? That's let's just start there. But most people honestly just think like, oh, nonprofit, like I don't know. They think of charity and I don't know. It's just right. That's the first thing. The second thing, so especially in workforce development, most nonprofits that teach that teach like communities how to get a job or how to be better at doing work, you know, getting grants and getting donations usually isn't the primary way in which they generate money. Right? The primary way in which they usually generate money is based on a service or a product that they are selling to Somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And in the tech space and the workforce development space, most nonprofits, they sell the service that they're selling. And I mentioned this earlier, I alluded to this earlier, for organizations that can't find or have a tough time finding talent. Most nonprofits are selling the people, the talent, the quote unquote talent that's coming in their door. And
Mm-hmm.
they're charging a really exorbitant price for it, an exorbitant price. And so I give you an example. I'm not gonna mention this is this common practice in general. Most nonprofits that go out to community college, somebody that is from an untapped, overlooked neighborhood making $17,000 a year, they say like, hey, come through my program, I'll get you an internship. And on the back end of the deal, the nonprofit will go to a company and say like, hey, you need some internships, how much do you want to pay, how much are you willing to pay an intern? And the company say like, oh, we usually pay our interns $40,000 a year is what we pay for an intern for 6 months. And so that nonprofit will say, great, you pay us 40,000, and instead of giving the person the whole 40,000, that nonprofit will say like, we're gonna take 20,000 and we're gonna give the person 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's messed up because then you would get these groups where the person never gets out of like the nonprofit cycle. They'll just go from one nonprofit to another nonprofit to another nonprofit and just do the cycle all over and again for, I've seen people go through this thing for like 5 to 6 years of jumping from nonprofit to nonprofit. And clearly the nonprofit is making a profit like that. But man, I had to throw that out there. Like we did that.
I can witness. I've known the organizations. I know like the ones that operate like locally and stuff. I've seen the nonprofit ones. I've seen the blatantly for-profit ones that don't even pretend to be nonprofit. Same model. We're going to take that money. We're getting this. Often, usually based on grants. I've seen that model as well, where they're running off the government, paying them to then do the training, and then they also get a piece of the action when they place the people. It's not cool.
Dude, it's messed up, right? And so you think about like the different organizations that support it. But it's like, you think if you know better, you do better. You get organizations that that say like, oh, we want to give back to the community, we want to do some social philanthropic kind of initiative. And it's like, what did you do? You're like, you're sure you're working with this nonprofit organization, but they're clearly folks are getting paid. So like the nonprofit executives and nonprofit employees, we're not, we don't work for free. Like we got to keep the lights on too, right? And so if you like go dig into the annual report and like mine included, if anybody wants to do due diligence of like, all right, what is my money going towards? Most people don't. Most organizations don't. They just rather see their name, on the report saying like I donated or did something. I checked the box. But more than times than not, you'll see salaries of like 500,000, like a nonprofit executive making 500,000. All right. And the constituents of the organization still making 17. Like we get probably a large majority of the people that come through our program from other nonprofits, which is why I know what right. And so it's like, man, you went through a nonprofit, you spent 5 years in a nonprofit cycle and you didn't get anywhere. You're still making $17,000 a year. And the nonprofit, leadership team is making how much? They're making how much off you? Like it's just, oh dude, it kills me, man. But it's just it's crazy how many people are just ignorant to that fact of like, man, no, nonprofits are it's a whole business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business.
Yeah, it's a business, and in the shitty model, right? Just like the shitty economic model in general that we've got going, the money flows up, right? So they can't show profit. They make money, but then the money has to go somewhere. And you just explain where it goes by talking about the salaries of the people at the very top, who often have a little bit of a demographic difference, let's call it, from the folks that they're putting through the system.
100%, dude. 100%. So when you think of the full cycle, if you think about like we're talking about like, the tech sales industry or just any industry in general that focuses on changing it, and you think about that model that we just talked about, and you think about how for-profit organizations, when you talk about corporate social responsibility and really them wanting to do good and tap into the community, at large, if you're an organization that taps into that model, how can you expect anything to change? Like you're just contributing to the same system of
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Bullshit.
dude, yeah, no, yeah. Oh, dude, who you telling, man? Like, so this is what I deal with every day, man. This is what I deal with, man. This the companies that kind of come and have this kind of 1960s approach of, nonprofits being almost like while the term like affirmative action has slowly like faded to the background. I feel like nonprofit work has kind of come into that light of being the like junior affirmative action for most organizations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, and it's sad.
Yeah. Well, we're getting into the upbeat themes now. And I want to relate that because in certain circles I run in, there's a phrase, solidarity over charity. Right, where there's a mindset difference about what you're doing, whether it's like hey, with whatever I have left, I'm going to be generous and give, which is what those charity models are built. And listen, charity has this place, right? I want to be clear, like, listen, we got some extra shit, like give it to some places, but let's not pretend that's going to like fundamentally solve anything. Let's not pretend that a system that relies on that to take care of the people who don't have anything is any sort of a good system. But we're not talking about charity, right? We're talking about like building something that takes care of people like they're equals and making sure that they have a place and they have work and that everyone's making something so that we can all have the lives we want, right? Solidarity over charity, but everyone thinks that nonprofits are charity, and the only people that have solidarity are those folks, those certain colors folks up in the boardrooms and up in the executive suites, which is the exact opposite of what they're saying that they're doing, right? So
Man, say it again for the people in the back, right? And so again, like it's so for sales, for the culture, and for rework, it's really about like how do you change that? How do you change that culture? How do you change that check a box? It almost becomes the check a box plus the intellectual exercise. Like our goal of like what makes us different is it's more than an intellectual exercise. Like we create this ecosystem where again, like people can actually do some work, do some work and make some change.
Yeah, no, that's the difference, right? Is like, hey, create an environment that actually supports people from a place of like, listen, we're in this together and like, let's go. And that's a lot different than people pretending to hand shit down. I mean, hell, handing shit down isn't going to solve it. And pretending to hand shit down while you're like handing it down and then taking half of it for yourself and then running away, definitely not going to solve shit.
Definitely not going to solve it.
Cool. I think we made the point, right? I think, does that drive it home?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I hope.
I know we could keep going.
Like, right? I want to belabor it.
We could beat that dead horse. We could find some different points. We could keep drinking and get louder with it. But yeah, I think we made the point. So now, and it might be related to this or not, but like how we kind of wrap this show is I let the guests figure out what we're going to say last, right? So like you get to decide like what is the ending message, the big takeaway, what do you want to leave people with, and I'll give you, the audience, right, tends to be like this mix for us of, I mean, there's marketers, there's salespeople, there's customer success people, there's some people who just like people that rant and say stupid like ranty things online, but mainly marketers and salespeople. So, and of a very diverse persuasion, whether it's color or some other things or like whatever it is, right? So like knowing that that's who we're talking to, what do you want to leave everybody with out of this conversation?
Oh, do I say this left till I'm blue in the face? I say that you can't be diverse and inclusive professionally and not be diverse and inclusive personally, right? It's impossible to tout this diversity and inclusion thing for 40 hours a week and think that the rest of your personal life isn't going to seep in some way, somehow into your professional life. You have to start personally. And so, reason I love this show of like, man, you made this lax of like, we're grabbing a beer together, dude, which is like a virtual beer together, just talking like this needs to happen on a regular basis off the camera. This needs to happen of like, man, I know about Paul. Paul knows about Shelton, just in general at companies to really move the needle forward. If you're an organization, if you're just a person, like, man, what can I do to be involved? Like the charity thing, like, sure, charity has its place. Giving back because you want to do something, you want that feel good moment. Like, sure, we all want that.
Mm-hmm.
But for this topic, this ain't about a feel good moment. This is about like actually making the change, making the adjustment, and growing as a human being. And so, like, you can't be diverse and inclusive professionally if you're not diverse and inclusive personally. If you can't think of one person that is outside your social demographic that you can kick back and have a beer with and not at work, then something like you got work to do. You got work. You got work. That's my night. You got work to do.
Yeah. Hypocrite. But yeah. There's where I go too far and ruin the message because people can't receive it because they feel attacked. But we got it. That's I believe true message. And yeah, that's how some of us live, and some of us have to like learn to live that way a little more, and that's fine, right? Don't take it as an attack after I cough out hypocrite, I'll say. Yeah, like that's something. And frankly, we all can actually grow in that way somehow. Even those of us who are already in that space, like there's something that we're not normally exposed to, and find something new and get yourself out there.
Dude, man, I'm glad that you said hypocrite though, Paul. My grandfather once said, he said, Sheldon, if you threw a rock into a group of dogs, how do you know which dog got hit? He's like, the one that yells, the one that like yelps, the one that cries is usually the one that got hit. And so if like you said hypocrite and somebody's like, no, I'm not, there, it's like, oh, that may be towards you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, I don't know how much of those folks are going to even be like hearing this message, right? I mean, we might be preaching to the choir a little bit, but fuck it. It still doesn't mean you don't give the message across, right? So, all right. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap. So it's been a pleasure having you on, bud, and spreading the message. And I found a new beer to sample. So nice. But and yeah, I'll finish this. I have no idea how to reseal this. So apparently I have an entire bottle of beer.
You gotta kill it. Yeah, you gotta kill it. You gotta knock it out.
I'm gonna try to cap it and drive home. So I don't need to finish this shit before I drive home. That's for sure. But yeah, appreciate the time, appreciate the message, appreciate what you do, and thanks for coming on, bud.
Appreciate it, man. Talk soon.
All right. Brews BizDev is hosted by Paul Greiner and produced by Renoun Creative. Check us out at renowncreative.com. Are you fucking kidding me?